Well, I can tell you why that is, okay? It's not as bad as you think. Learning disabled people, neurodivergent people, when they start to read, their brain processes the information in the wrong area. It places it in the frontal cortex, which is our thinking and our remembering brain, the brain that we need to do all the things we do. Reading is supposed to go to the back of the brain, to an area called the occipital cortex. When you learn to read through the code, it rewires the brain very quickly and makes the reading go back there.
Welcome to OTR, Over the Rainbow, Achieving Mental Health for Real. This podcast offers hope to many people who needlessly suffer from mental health issues. Your host, Bob Adelman, brings you information on how you can recover from any mental health issue and achieve a happier life. If you want to know more, please check out his trailer. Bob's notes on today's show follows.
Can it be true? Dyslexic and ADHDer David Chalk claims it's the real deal, and I believe him. My son and I are both dyslexic and signed up for his game-changing AI app called Reading Road. He is giving his beta program away free if you sign up at readingroad.ai. David was on the documentary The Truth About Reading, where he was taught how to read faster and comprehend more. He went from reading 1 book a year to reading easily 20 books a month. Chalk has been involved in the technology industry for over 25 years, from being a commercial pilot to working in technology industries. His background began with video streaming during the early days of the internet. He developed the video engine for Yahoo, which generated $60 million in capital. He created Canada's technology magazine, Computer Buyer Magazine, in 1983. In 1996, he established one of the longest-running technology shows in Canada. Chalk founded many companies including Doppler Computer Superstores, Chalk Media, Trees Matter, New Century Video Streaming, and Comware Compression Clothing for Autism, and most recently he helps create mentorship programs within organizations.
Now, here's Bob with today's show.
Hello, David. How are you? Welcome to OTR.
Thank you for having me. I am doing great. I'm in Vancouver, Canada, and we have snow. People think we get that all the time here, but we don't. This is a real anomaly.
Would you like to tell the listener a little bit about yourself and your brand that you have?
Yeah. So I am a severely learning disabled adult. I have ADHD, dyslexia, a thing called prosopagnosia, which makes it very hard to recognize human faces. And growing up as a child, I was undiagnosed, so I had no idea. My school days were very difficult. In the classroom, there was bullying and humiliation. Teachers thought I didn't want to learn. I was sent to the office, put in the corner, all the things that would make a child want to quit school, except I really wanted to learn, but it was difficult and I didn't know how. When I graduated, I decided that I was going to make something of myself. Many people that graduate in my condition give up. And that's one thing I try and help people with that are in school or adults that don't have a lot of faith in their self-esteem. So I really worked hard. I became an airline pilot when I was 20. My ADHD made it too hard for me to sit still in the cockpit. So I went into business. I started many companies, some of them well over 100 million, 500 employees. And I had sold them, but when COVID hit, I lost everything I had.
Oh, no.
And it set me back and had me realize I needed to deal with something, which was learning to read, because I could not read.
So yours is an amazing story because you did all these things without being able to read. Were you able to read a little bit, or what was it like? Was it just...
I understand what you mean. And it can be confusing for listeners. So I have a good vocabulary and I know how to read words, but I had to sound them out. So I went very slowly and I could understand the meaning, but if I was handed a document or a paper or a contract, I'd have to have someone else help me do it. But the reason I was able to make it is not because I could or couldn't read. It's because most human beings are really capable of putting themselves out and doing incredible things if they believe they can do it. And that's what my mom taught me. She taught me to really give my all, and that's simply all I did. And, there's an old saying that says 95% of life is just showing up. Well, I showed up with bells on, did everything I could, and struggled through. Always difficult, but I found out success wasn't that hard.
Right. Great. I mean, I had very similar background. When I went to school, I was all over the place. I didn't want to, sit there and be, bored to death. And so I was in the hallway most of the time. They just threw me out of the room because I would interrupt and make a joke. I was a class clown because that's how people accepted me. Because I have such severe dyslexia and ADHD, I can't really read too much. I do voice reviews and things like that, but I just forget things, especially now that I'm older. My short-term memory is almost zero. And, now, did I overcome that? I kind of did because I went into IT, very successful, but it was so painful to be or try to be a neurotypical person when I wasn't. And I always tried to be because I had no idea that so many people had the same situation like you had.
Me neither.
And then I came up on all the, the social media sites about ADHD and all this. And I listened to some people that explained it. And I was like, okay, all this time people were making fun of me. My brothers tortured me. And guess what? I just had a neurodivergent mind, and that's it. And I think it's true probably for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know if you say that, but what I want to find out is because I find this amazing that you were a pilot. Didn't you have to take? Didn't you have to take tests that were written? So how did you do it?
Well, that's all part of the big picture, and it's what I am doing now. I'm developing artificial intelligence to help children learn to read who are dyslexic and ADHD.
Okay.
And a number of years ago, I was doing a lot of research on neuroscience of the brain. How do we learn? Why can some people learn, some not? Some, even though they can't read, are really smart, and they just keep pushing forward. I was fortunately one of those. And I found out in my search that the brain has a number of neurochemicals that get released on certain occasions. And so for people with learning disabilities, they don't typically get released.
Right.
So therefore, the child starts acting out, bored, frustrated, class clown, bully. It can be anything.
It's a lack of dopamine, to be exact.
Exactly. A lack of dopamine.
I finally found a medicine that upped my dopamine and got me out of bed and got me doing things. And it's like a magic medicine, and nobody knows about it.
Yeah, and that's a great thing because that is what it is. But there's even more. There are other neurochemicals. One very important one called acetylcholine. And acetylcholine is the one that really has the memory, remember things. So going back to your question about flying, is that I knew that I could do things and I wanted to. But because there was not enough dopamine in my brain, and as soon as things started going bad in the classroom, you shut down, and then you got cortisol. And cortisol is like hell. It's the one that makes you act out. It's the one that makes you disrupt the class. So it only gets worse and worse. When I graduated, I wanted to be a pilot. And what happened was, first time I went flying, you know where dopamine comes from, excitement. I was so excited that I literally learned to fly in just a couple of hours.
I believe it.
And yes, you're right. I had to write the tests. One thing about dyslexia, it's got very good spatial orientation. A lot of pilots are dyslexic because we know how to move around in three-dimensional space really well. And for me, I just put in extra effort, and I slowly read the materials I had to read, and I graduated top of the class.
Wow.
Because the moment my brain knew that it wanted something, not only did the dopamine go forward, but the acetylcholine did. And that's what happens to people who are great athletes or chess players or martial arts, how they get so good. So I was very fortunate that my brain turned on those neurochemicals.
Right.
But as I said, my problem was the ADHD did not like sitting still.
Right.
And I did not want to fly after I became professional. When I was learning, it was a lot of fun.
Right.
When you're in a big jet aircraft flying for hours, for me, that was boring.
Of course, yeah. We all search for the dopamine in different ways.
Yeah.
In different ways. Some people will cut themselves. That's the most extreme situation.
Mm-hmm. Suicide.
For me, yes, suicide, which is really bad. That's what I hope to prevent in these broadcasts. But for me, it was, I get nervous. I get extremely nervous before the show, before the meetings. And when I get to the meeting or get to the show, I couldn't be more relaxed. Because all the dopamine comes flooding into my head.
So what happens before the meeting? Like me, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So we go into fight or flight.
Right.
And fight or flight causes anxiety. And then it causes the brain to numb down a little bit. It's all part of fight or flight. So we think we're going to do bad and we're nervous and we're worried. And this would be true for many of your listeners. But if they would push themselves, and that's what I was saying, that's what you've said. When you push yourself over that hump, you go into another state called flow, FLOW. And it's like flowing of the dopamine.
Right.
And it is real. And when I'm in that state, time passes. I don't have to think. The words come out of my mouth, and you know that, but I wish other people did.
But the danger to this, the real danger to this, is that people will create their own trauma to get that dopamine. They want that dopamine, so they'll create it. They'll do stupid things or get into stupid situations. I did it. I do it. I do all sorts of things backwards, and I bite up more than I can chew, like with this podcast. And so if it's not super successful right away, I'm like, wow, why do I do this? But my biggest issue is that I am so uncomfortable before something happens that I really can't decide if I like doing this or not. I like every other aspect, but when I have to deal with people hurt me all my life. So I am afraid of peers and people in authority. So I have like a little bit of a talking problem with that. One-on-one, I'm okay. But the minute I get into a group, forget it. I'm like not there. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
So,
and there's many people like that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there should be a way to get more dopamine like they did with my medicine. I mean, the only problem with that is I think I got a little anxiety added into it. All right. So once you were a pilot, how many years did you do piloting, or was it months?
They usually measure it in hours. I got about 2,000 hours.
Okay. All right. That's a lot.
And that's a couple of years.
Yeah. So once you said, okay, this is boring, what motivated you to do something else? Was there a reason?
Yeah. Well, I just knew I didn't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It was in the mid-'80s, and I had no idea. So I went and bought a personal computer, one of the first Apple computers.
Mm-hmm.
And I took it apart and wanted to see how it worked, something I always liked doing. I figured it out. And I thought, you know what? I could probably make these things. So I started building them in my basement.
Wow.
And from there, over about a 15-year period, I grew the company up to 500 employees.
Excellent. Very nice. So you have a pretty good rapport with other people, right? I mean, it sounds like it.
Well, I don't go out of my way. I am quiet and reserved. But again, when I have to do something, because I can make myself feel excited about it,
right.
Then I go into that flow state and it all becomes natural.
Yeah.
Sometimes when it's over, I don't feel good. I have a headache. I'm shaking. I wonder how I do it all. I feel like I'm a fraud. All of the things that everyone that have these things feel like. But I learned a lesson. If I keep going and don't quit and keep going and don't quit, I can make it happen.
Wow, that's amazing. I was in IT for 40 years, so I had to deal with, really neurotypical, very smart people. And
right.
My problem is I'm smart on the inside, but I can't get it out. My outside is not as smart as my inside. People will say, "Oh, this guy's a dope," until they see what I do. And then once they see what I do, it goes forward like that. So you started this company, and it went up to 500 people?
$150 million.
Gotcha. All right.
So it got fairly big.
That's terrific. I mean, so did you eventually get bored of it again?
No, not really, but I ended up selling it. And then I started about 5 more companies after that, all different types of things, because I enjoyed the adrenaline of starting the company more than running it.
Yeah, I'm lost with that stuff. I look at starting a company as like impossible for me. I mean, I like people, but it's hard for me to get a relationship going and keeping it.
Yeah, and you got to manage them too. That can be a lot of work. I had to learn it.
Yeah. I mean,
I had no experience.
Yeah, and it's amazing, especially since you got so much negative feedback originally when you went through the school system.
Well, I was told when I finally got out of school, I was called into the principal's office and said, "David, people like you end up on the street, on poverty, or in jail."
What, he was trying to scare you or something? I don't
know. It was the mentality they had.
Yeah.
And the fact is, the truth of the matter is, people that do not learn to read properly are the ones in poverty.
I agree.
Are the ones on welfare, and they are the ones in jail.
I always say
over 80% of people in jail can't read.
I always say the same thing, that what you see in jail on the street are neurodivergent people that didn't have enough to make it work. Didn't have the guts, didn't have the brain, whatever it is. I'm very stubborn, and I grew up very competitive because my big brother was a super bully, so I'd always have to try to beat him. And I hardly ever did. But I didn't beat him, but it made me good.
Competitive.
It made me good. Mm-hmm. When I was in grade school and we played baseball, I felt great. Everybody else might have been nervous, but I had so much dopamine. It was terrific. And then I started to analyze it too much, and it got bad once I got OCD and all that. But yeah, so the story of that is very interesting, is about how you finally learn to read. Here you are at 62 years old, which is like, I just reached that. I did. I'm now 66. But how did this come about? I mean, did you set out to do that, or it was just an accident? Or how did that
It was
happen?
a set of circumstances. So when COVID came, I got hit very badly financially. And now I was 62, started a lot of companies, but I had lost everything at that point and didn't know what to do. So I was talking to a friend, and I said, it's really a shame that I never learned to read properly, and the ADHD and dyslexia make it hard to really get going. And she said, well, I know a man in California, a famous man, John Cochran, who wrote a book about dyslexia, creating a documentary, and he's looking for an adult who can't read, but is willing to go on camera in front of people and show that he can't read and then take a special reading program. And that'd be very embarrassing. And, it was. But I just decided that maybe the universe was giving me a chance to do something else. So I went and took the program, and it was all filmed on camera. The documentary is called The Truth About Reading. It plays on Apple TV and Prime.
2020 did it. 2020. Yeah.
Yep. And so it has a very good story of what happens in the reading system and what happens to all the kids that can't read. And then I learned how to read in 11 hours.
Wow.
And nobody could believe it, but it's all on camera.
Wow.
And the reason is I went into that place with the dopamine and the acetylcholine, just like when I learned to fly.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me a different way of learning. It's not about reading words on the page. It's explaining that the English language is a code. Everything is language. We speak, we hear, we know words. The only reason we have it on paper, like from computing, it's a storage mechanism. And in order to put it on the page, it has to be coded, the way Morse code or the way you would write a computer program. You have to know the code. Well, schools don't teach the code. So they tell you that there's 26 symbols, the letters of the alphabet, and there's only 44 sounds. And, different ones make up all the different words. And they show you how they relate to the words. And then after a couple hours of doing that and practicing it, you see that your brain doesn't have to read the words. It looks at the symbols the same way you can look out your window, a tree, a car, a stop sign. Like, you don't think about it. And so when you're taught that way, immediately you can learn how to read. And in doing that, I decided that there are millions of people, hundreds of millions of people that suffer from not reading. So that I would develop an artificial intelligence program that could do just that it could teach someone to read, get them excited about it, and do it the same way I did. And that's what I'm developing right now.
Wow. I would like a copy of that because I suck at reading. I don't even read. I let the voice review, read over. My problem is I can't remember what I read. I'll get to the bottom of the page and I'm like, what the hell did I just read?
Well, I can tell you why that is, okay? It's not as bad as you think. Learning disabled people, neurodivergent people, when they start to read, their brain processes the information in the wrong area. It places it in the frontal cortex, which is our thinking and our remembering brain, the brain that we need to do all the things we do. Reading is supposed to go to the back of the brain to an area called the occipital cortex. When you learn to read through the code, it rewires the brain very quickly and makes the reading go back there. Then, when you are reading, that front part, the frontal cortex that was struggling to read the words, now has no pressure from trying to read. Now it remembers, now it understands, and now it can process the language. It's almost like magic. It's sort of like,
it's amazing.
Sending it to the wrong part of the brain. We don't have any capacity left to remember, to think, to understand. And it puts a lot of strain on the brain. But now, a couple of years after that, I don't read because I can. I read because I love it. And I read about 15 to 20 books a month.
See, I can't even get through one book. I don't even pick up books. I'm totally intimidated.
I think I read maybe one book every 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm saying it's so shocking. All those millions of people, they don't have to suffer like that.
And that's what this show's all about. Information, so people don't have to suffer needlessly.
Right.
Suffering's part of life, okay? But we don't have to do it and stab ourselves in the toe all the time if we can have a better way. And that's what the show's about, to teach them better ways. There's some amazing people on.
Yeah, my my technology is going to be called Reading Road, like reading and then road that you drive down.
Right.
It's an AI program, so it's readingroad.ai. It's not available yet for probably another 3/4 of a year.
Okay.
But if anyone signs up at the website, I'll actually give it to them for free.
What is the website?
Readingroad.ai.
Perfect. I'll be the first one to sign up.
All right. And you can just go there and put your name in, and then we will let you know when you can have it.
Yeah, I am terrible at reading. What happens is, once I start reading, I get so crazy nervous that I can't read anymore. It's just like, it's just the way my brain works. It's like, I don't have that adrenaline working.
Well, it's not as bad as you think. And this is why I studied cognitive science for quite a few years to truly understand how the brain works. What's happening is you go into fight or flight. No difference than when you're scared. The anxiety, the fogginess in the brain, to lose the memory. Because, back in millions of years ago, they didn't want us to think whether or not they should fight the saber-toothed tiger. It was get the hell out of there. Mm-hmm. So all the adrenaline goes into the body. And if you don't use it for muscle power or running, it turns into anxiety. So in this day and age, it all turns into anxiety. So because when you pick up the book, it's going to be hard, the amygdala fires, the cortisol and adrenaline go out, and it turns into this big spiral that gets worse by the minute. Mm-hmm. So that is all because the reading doesn't work. When we change how the reading works, all of that goes away.
And of course, I guess after a while, you'll get so much more confidence that, you can then do it easily without all this pain.
Absolutely. I have no fear. Yeah, I have no fear of it whatsoever. Great. I love it. Right. I can even read the most complicated books now.
Okay. I mean, how long have you been working at this program?
It was about 4 years ago, after I took the training, that I had to research cognitive science, and that took, a number of years. And I had to develop how I was going to build it. And then I wanted to make sure all my research was correct, so I started working with Stanford University on my plans. And then I realized, I had it figured out. And so now I've done all the preliminary, but I have to raise quite a bit more money to continue building it. And I talk to people that are interested, and they end up getting shares. I'm not here to sell shares or anything like that. I connect with people. They invest. They will make a lot of profit off of it, and they know they're doing good. We're going to help millions of people.
That's so good. I mean, the way I look at it is, if this show helps one person, it helps the millions. Because one person knows two people, and they know two people.
Exactly.
And it's, 6 degrees of separation. There's so much that can be accomplished, with the knowledge that I try to put out in all these shows. So hopefully we'll get more and more people that want that knowledge. So, I mean, that's my big entrepreneurship it's not big at all.
That's good. And the whole thing is, if you're helping people, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And what's the best place to go to read about this kind of technology?
There is nowhere, because it isn't released, but you can go to the website, which is readingroad.ai.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of information. It's not out on the market yet. So I tell people about it, that it's coming. They can sign up to get it for free. And when it's there, it'll start to change the world. I believe, they'll hear about it on the news, because it'll be so big.
Yeah. There'll be less homeless and less people in prison, probably. But how did when you initially did this, how did they know what to do? How did they find out about this originally and tell you about it?
Nobody really knew a lot about anything.
Okay.
I had to figure it all out. Like, how was it I learned to read? They knew how to teach me the sound to symbol, right? But it was my brain that actually made it work so quickly. And that's what I had to figure out. Then I had to figure out, how would I train artificial intelligence to do it? And how would I learn the whole process of teaching to read? So that took a number of years to get done. And now, as I said, I'm in that stage of the final pieces coming together. The person that introduced me to it, he is dyslexic. He wrote a book many years ago. He's very famous. He was on Oprah Winfrey and all the other shows because he went public and said he was a teacher and he couldn't read. His book is called The Teacher Who Couldn't Read. But he always continued to fight for people to get the education system to change. And for years and years and years, nothing has ever happened. Nothing has ever changed. So he wanted to make a documentary about it, to let people see that in North America, there's more than 150 million people that read at an elementary school level.
I believe it.
And half of those can't read at all.
I believe it.
It's hard to believe.
I believe
but this is, 2025. So he said, well, maybe if I find someone who we teach to read this new way, maybe they'll figure out how to do something with it. And I was just the lucky one. And it clicked. Well, and I said, okay, I'm going to change the world.
Will you remember me after you get famous?
Absolutely. Well, you've got my contact information.
I'll be your first customer lining up at the door because
absolutely.
It's a lot of pain for me. A lot of pain that I know. I can't read. So, wow, this is amazing. I'm dumbfounded. So, what if I'll ask the same stupid question they ask on an interview. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Are you going to continue just doing, but doing this, or are you going to expand out? Do you have plans to do anything else?
Yeah, the way new technology works, it's cloud-based. So I put it up, into like Amazon or Microsoft servers, and then people run it through their computer or their iPad. My role 5 years from now, I hope I am telling the world from Africa to Central America, anyone that they can learn to read. Wow. And that's my mission.
It'll be really fun watching your progress, but
it'll be exciting. I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, it is. How could you not be? It's an amazing accomplishment by you, and you should be very proud. Can you call that guy that told you would amount to nothing? Call him up?
No, I think he's probably dead. But all the other people, what's important is I don't do it for money. Yes, it'll make money, and yes, I'll get more known. But I made a lot of money before, and I had my own television show before. I did all sorts of things. So I know that there's a better purpose, and my purpose is help other people stop suffering. And so
that's my purpose as well.
It makes it much easier for me to do a big project like this when I'm not in it just to make money.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about money. Everybody, a podcast, okay? Everybody's the first day of the podcast, they'll go, how much money can I make? And I'm like, I have no commercials. I will never have commercials. I'm trying to put through a premium package so I don't have to have such bad, not bad sound, but I don't sound like a professional. So, this stuff could really take off, and I'm very excited for you. And
thank you.
I wish we could talk forever, but sometimes people, lose their attention span. And,
they get enough, and now they know how to find it.
Yeah.
We gave them the address.
I always give my guests the final say, if you want it. It's up to you to tell us about anything.
Yeah, well, my final say would be this. There's a lot of people who have learning disabilities. They're called dumb and stupid. They start to suffer in grade 1, 2, and 3, and they get pushed around, and sometimes the parents kind of think their kids are dumb. Well, learning disabilities and not reading has nothing to do with intelligence whatsoever. In fact, some of the most famous people in the world, as you probably know, are dyslexic. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, Albert Einstein, Picasso, Thomas Edison. The list goes on forever.
Right.
Because those people didn't quit. So my goal is to help people when they're really young learn to read so they don't get upset and they don't get mad and they don't become the class clown and they don't become a bully. They graduate, go to college, and contribute to the society.
So this can be a better world. That's the mission.
Yeah. The mission is to make it a better world.
People care now. They want to help. And what you're doing is a great help for everybody, probably me as well. And it's just amazing. I really thank you for coming on the show and giving us great information and getting us all excited so we can help and get your program. Because I hear you. I hear what you did, what you accomplished, and it's beautiful. It's tremendous. So,
well, I wish all your listeners the best, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming. You were a great guest, and hopefully we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you've got my number.
Okay. Bye.
Take care.